have Chris with us here today from X Performance and Wellness. So Chris is going to be speaking to us about headaches and what he has seen in the clinic that he works at and and his expertise. And so anyway, Chris, I'm going to leave this up to you and let you tell us what you know about headaches and have found in your clinic settings.
Yeah, I guess there's just so much information on headaches and migraines. The biggest issues that I have, or the biggest things that I see, is people kind of diagnosed, even misdiagnosed, where doctors, or you have a client that goes to see a doctor, even a specialist, and he or she prescribes, some type of medication, and or they live with these issues for a period of time, and or for their whole entire life, because, like I said, the doctor or the specialist just says they're migraines, they're headaches, and nothing's wrong with you. It's just you're gonna have to live that way for the rest of your life. And I've always, at least once a week, I deal with headaches on a weekly basis, where people come in and they've seen doctors, specialists, and or they've gotten Botox injections, even nerve blocking, and the list goes on, for these so-called migraines or headaches. But they've never seen, I consider myself a soft tissue specialist. I hate using the word massage therapist, but they've never gotten, therapy or a real set of hands on them that kind of understands how nerves somewhat work. And nerves are very finicky. And what I mean by that is, you can look at a nerve as like a caterpillar. So they're inside your tissue, so to speak, and they're inside your body, and they are surrounded by, fascia, tissue, and I'm trying to simplify things. And basically, you can almost like touch a caterpillar very gently without it shriveling up. But the minute you put too much pressure on that caterpillar, it just shrivels up and it doesn't like it. And that's kind of how a nerve is in my head. And what I mean by that is, if there's too much tension on the tissue, let's say, or the tissue is dehydrated, too tight, it compresses that nerve. So it compresses that caterpillar to the point where it doesn't like it. So it just shrivels up. Now you start getting what I call lack of flow. So in the suboccipital area, I like working that area, and I find that a lot of headaches, even migraines, concussion-like symptoms, fogginess, dizziness, sinus issues, tend to start at that suboccipital area. You have basically a small joint, small little tiny muscles that are very hard to manipulate, very hard to stretch out. But when you put pressure on these, I call them 3 garden hoses that run through this kind of channel in that suboccipital area. And one's your lymphatic vessel, you have an artery, you have a nerve. And basically, the slightest amount of pressure on those garden hoses, so to speak, restricts the amount of flow that's coming through. So now, instead of having 100 PSI, you get 98, you get 97, 87, 50, 60, 40% flow. When you have lack of flow, you start getting symptoms happening. So you start getting, like I said, concussion-like symptoms, fogginess, dizziness, sinus issues, headaches, migraines, the list goes on. So a lot of people, like I said, specialist doctors don't necessarily understand the tissues and how a little bit of pressure on nerves, arteries, veins, whatever, can give you symptoms. And I always just say to people, don't come to me asking, is this pharmaceutical drug what I should be taking? I don't know much about pharmaceutical drugs, nor do I want to. It's not my expertise. It's not my thing. But when it comes to soft tissue, I wouldn't go to a doctor and ask them, hey, how do I stretch this muscle, so to speak? Or how do I relax this? Because they don't really know that. They don't really understand it. They've never really been taught that. They've been taught about pharmaceutical drugs and about different illnesses. So, and then there's also, trying to get down to the root cause. Is it postural, sitting bad? Is it stress from your kids, screaming and shouting? The list goes on and on.
Yeah, that's interesting. You also mentioned when your tissues are dehydrated as well. That's an issue as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hydration, I can't preach that enough. People need to understand the importance of hydration. If that tissue is dehydrated, you know, like I said, everything's surrounded by water. You know, our body is just all that tissue, all those nerves, arteries, everything is surrounded by water. So when it comes to hydration, it is so important to allow those tissues to kind of basically glide over each other.
Right. Yeah, very interesting. So how would you be manipulating the areas, probably the neck, I would imagine, like when you're working with someone?
Yeah, it's trying to understand, right? You know, has it been an acute issue, chronic issue? I've been dealing with it for a while. Do they have some type of trauma? Is it just postural related? And even posture is such, you know, just to touch up on that. I'm 43 years old and I've been working out for about 30 years now, and my posture is still horrible. I hate when people say you have to strengthen your posture. If you continue to understand and continue to believe that strengthening your posture is going to actually fix your posture, you're going to be trying to do that for the rest of your life. That's not working. It becomes a mental thing. Mentally, you have to concentrate to engage your posture. The strength component is secondary. The strength component allows you to hold that and maintain that. But the first component is psychologically, you have to keep reminding yourself to engage that posture.
That's interesting. Yeah, I thought it was having a strong core that engaged it, but that's quite true, actually.
I need to concentrate. I need to tell myself, oh yeah, get my shoulders back here, right? Now I can kind of hold it there and have that strength, but eventually after a few minutes, I tend to get lazy and I let that go, right? So it becomes a conscious effort where I have to keep reminding myself to stay back there. Eventually it'll stay back there, but I need to always remind myself to get my shoulders back and down.
Right. So that can be a cause of headaches because you're pushing on.
Yeah, so there's basically, so the trapezius is kind of like in three parts, right? It runs from basically your skull, your shoulder, and it runs down to halfway down your back. And basically that's where my background first started off, doing EMG testing. So biofeedback, basically testing how muscles fire in different movements. So with the trapezius, more importantly, the upper and lower trap are made and designed for different kind of movements, so to speak. So the lower trapezius is what gives you your posture. The upper trapezius is what gives you your range of motion. That's a simple way to look at it. But what ends up happening is due to just daily activities and reprogramming your body into bad habits, what ends up happening is that upper trap takes over and it starts shrugging your shoulders up. So when that happens, you start getting those, you know, headaches, so to speak, because you start impinging the nerves. And nerves in the upper body are so superficial. If I kick you as hard as I can in your butt, you're really not going to say ow. But if I flick your shoulder or your neck here, it kind of hurts. And the reason why it hurts is because the nerves are so superficial. And when that happens, there's kind of zero room for error, meaning the slightest bit of tension on that tissue is going to impinge a nerve.
Interesting. So, and then when you're stressed because you're yelling at your kids or you know, driving in bad traffic or something, I guess you tense up as well. Would that be the cause?
Absolutely. Being on the computer, right? Sitting down, driving. Automatically when I drive, my shoulders come up, right? Or you see that, I call it the gangster lean, where when people are, you know, one hand on the steering wheel, it causes this area, so this muscle, the trapezius, to just collapse and shorten.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah, and very interesting. So, do you have much success? And so, someone's coming with a severe headache or migraines. Do you have quite a lot of success as you find out the cause? I suppose is your
even TMJ issues, right? So you get a lot of people that clench their jaw at night because they're so stressed out. And I find a lot of it has to do with the neck. A lot of it has to do with that suboccipital area. You got to remember, if I'm correct, which I know I am, when you compress that tissue, so when you compress those nerves are a garden hose. You restrict that flow. Now you're getting lack of communication, right, to that tissue. So when you start getting lack of communication to that tissue, now when your brain is telling your trap to just kind of relax, it's hard. It's hard for it to relax because that communication is getting delayed, right? So that's why nerve flossing is so important, stretching that tissue, hydration, all that stuff. I mean, I have good success, and I'm not saying that this is all, these are all the cases where, loosen the tissue and your concussion, your headaches, your, migraines, all that stuff's going to go away. But I see it very frequently where, people just put all this trust in that specialist or doctor when they haven't seen, a chiropractor, physio, or massage therapist, somebody that kind of understands tissue and how it's supposed to be released. So I see it on, like I said, a weekly basis where people come in, it's been, weeks, months, years, and they've had all these injections, and after a few treatments, it's like night and day. I have an executive client that I just treated last night, and after about, a handful of treatments, he does not go in for his Botox injections. It's been a year and a couple of months. He doesn't get the nerve blocking anymore. And ironically, it's been so funny because I couldn't work on him for the last probably 2 months because of this whole pandemic situation. And, I spoke to him yesterday, and he's in wow that normally every 2 months, he can't go more than 2 months without getting the Botox and or the nerve blocking. And it's been 4 months now. I think he said 4 months that he's had any type of Botox or injections done. So it looks like, things are on the right track.
Oh, good. So those 2 months, he never got a headache?
No, he doesn't get any headaches whatsoever. Ever. Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's the problem is even going to the specialist and getting a Botox and all these other, I know, I don't know what my nephew was getting, but they'll go to the hospital and they get this injection in their butt. Maybe it's some strong painkillers, but I know a lot of people go for their shot. But it's not just that. Maybe it helps with the pain, but it's what it's doing to your body. All that.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Not to cut you off, but like I said before, just because you're a specialist or a pain specialist doesn't mean that you understand soft tissue, right? So for me, I've seen. I mean, this is just one client out of probably 30 clients that I have that's gone to see pain specialists. And their theory is, okay, we'll do all this Botox injection, we'll nerve block, we'll burn your nerves. But things end up, that's just, gives you, it's a Band-Aid, right? And for me, all that crap that you're injecting into your body after a period of time can't be good for you. I'd rather spend money on getting a massage, getting some type of treatment, that's beneficial, that's helpful, and that really isn't harmful for your body than to go get these injections all the time.
Yeah, you'd think that would be the logical choice. It's amazing how brainwashed, I don't know if that's the word, but how we do revere our specialists, and they certainly have a place, and they've certainly done years of learning and understanding. But if the two could meet together and work together, I mean, wouldn't that be amazing?
Absolutely. And that's what I said too before, that, you got to, the clinic that I kind of got brought up in, we had the best of the best. So we had the greatest sports med doctor, greatest surgeons, greatest chiropractor, physio, massage, who I believe were the greatest, and still are great. And for me, I was spoiled, but I understood how everybody worked together. And because ultimately, just because, like I said, you're a specialist doesn't mean that you understand everything. Just because I'm a soft tissue specialist, I'm not going to bash and beat up saying, hey, don't go on any pharmaceutical drug. You might need that. That's not my specialty. But at the same time, most of the times, most people don't need that that pharmaceutical drug, right? And for me, I always try to, it's the 3-strike rule. Give somebody 3 chances. If you're not 75 to 85% better after those 3 kind of treatments, then maybe you should try something else, but you shouldn't just be brainwashed to believe from these specialist doctors or even therapists that, well, it's a chronic issue. You fell on your head, so therefore you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, why sentence yourself to a lifelong either drugs for the rest of your days? And that's what I say to some of my family members and friends who are doing heavy drugs for issues where I really believe that a therapist, even a psychologist could probably help as well, or a psychotherapist and a soft tissue specialist, that, rather than choosing something like that's more alternative and less invasive, they choose the drugs. And or they choose that pain, and I shake my head and I think, oh, you need these drugs now and you're only 50, 40, whatever the age is. What about 10 years from now? It doesn't get better. You need more drugs to counteract the drugs, so you'll end up having this whole cocktail of drugs by the time you're 60 or 70, and you sort of just sentence yourself to a lifelong tough end of your days.
For sure.
Yeah, and I'm all about living right up until you can't.
Absolutely, trying to enjoy that last little breath of air that we're able to have.
Absolutely.
But it's tough. I see a lot of young people. There's been 16-year-olds coming in, getting diagnosed chronic headaches, migraines, and you're telling me they have to live the rest of their life, in that state.
Yeah.
And majority of the time, and I've seen, I've had a handful that, knock on wood, they're headache free after a few treatments. And there's so much alternative stuff that you can try, acupuncture. There's just so much. And I just think that people need to, like I said in the other video, my biggest advice from one of my greatest mentors was that, there's a solution for the most part, for most injuries, but you got to find that solution, and you can't just think that, you got to live that way. You got to live in pain for the rest of your life. For the most part, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, especially raising children, I never accepted a diagnosis. I researched, and then we found answers, and it's a lot of work, but you have to take your health in your own hands. You have to take your health and be in control. And even when you do see the specialist, you should be asking, what else can we do? And you should be become knowledgeable. I'm amazed at how many people are diagnosed with issues and they don't actually know any more than what the doctors told them. They haven't done their due diligence with their issue and found and even looked up alternative therapies or what has worked, or go on Facebook groups and talk to people. They just accept it and sort of a sentence.
Yeah, even like nutrition, just knowing, you can be lacking a mineral, a vitamin that can lead to a headache. You can be, dehydrated. You can be eating the wrong foods that you're, sensitive towards. There's just so much that people need to understand. The problem is we put so much faith and trust in a doctor because they're a doctor. They went to school for years and, they should know better. But like I said before, most doctors go to school. They spend years in school to only understand muscles. They get educated, around muscles for about 6 to 8 weeks. You can't tell me I spent 2 years in school learning how to manipulate a muscle and learning the various different muscles in the body that they have more, understanding of soft tissue than I do. Absolutely not. But at the same time, you can't expect me that learns probably a couple of months out of my 2-year course for massage, not considering the other courses that I've taken, that I know more about, serious illnesses or pharmaceutical drugs. We only touched up about that maybe, a month or 2, 3 months tops. So these guys spent years in school. So I wouldn't go to a massage therapist or a therapist, and ask them, hey, is this medication good for me to take? I was hanging out, getting mentored by doctors, physios, chiros, and for years. So for me, it's about picking their brain and trying to understand a little bit of what they know. So that's why I just, I've had enough, and I keep preaching to people, like, there has to be a solution. Like, you need to get yourself in a good set of hands that understand not everything, but understand a lot more than norm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I'm all about health and nutrition and plant-based living, and just, I do not struggle with a headache unless I've done something stupid at the gym. But nutrition is also absolutely paramount, because inflammation is huge. And you mentioned allergens to different types of foods can happen as well. But if you're eating a lot of fatty, greasy, it's hard in your system, eating under stress, like most of us do, you're causing as you talked about, the veins and the tissues, you're putting that stress on. But Chris, this has been really, really great and helpful. And I hope that you that are listening have learned something. I know I have. So just, remember to subscribe, and also give us a thumbs up, hopefully, and leave a comment, and especially a comment for Chris as well. And I'll leave you Chris's information if you want to get hold of him. I'll leave you my information. I am and do wellness coaching, and I help people to change their habits and become healthy habits, as well as I'm working with plant-based. I'm a plant-based chef as well. So Chris and I are going to be getting together, and we're going to be touching on a lot of that I know that you'll all be interested in. So do subscribe as well.
Thank you.